What up, y'all? We are here for our weekly manifestation oracle message. I hope you're doing well. Let's see, public service announcement. I learned in my from one of my Kabbalah teachers today that we are moving into 3 weeks that are considered 3 of the most difficult weeks of the year. I feel like this is like a kind of quarterly thing with Hebrew calendar, but the lunar month of Cancer presents challenges that lead us into the month of August, which is the month of Teshuvah, which prepares us for Rosh Hashanah. So the month of August is really about going in and reflecting and doing that deep inner reflection to pull up all the things that we need to change within ourselves, and the spiritual debts that we have, accumulated over the past year. The little smudges we've gotten on that fresh soul from last Rosh Hashanah. So this is a yearly time of reflection. This kind of butts up against the annual Mercury retrograde in Virgo season, which is same theme. It's like going inward, looking at the self, looking at your foundations in your life and the infrastructures and the way that you perceive things and approach things. And I know for myself, my own shortcomings have been brought into my awareness recently. And, it's not always comfortable to see those things. Your ego wants to be defensive. But I always try to remember the passage from A Course in Miracles, which says, "In my defenselessness, my power lies." And so it's better to go within and make changes in oneself before we just rush around to take outward action. If we take outer action before we've solved the inner pattern or the inner problem, then we only change the vessel on the outside, but we'll get ourselves into essentially the same lesson all over again. The same experience will be there. So for example, if you leave a romantic relationship and you're like, well, I was just with a bad partner and we had difficulty and that was just like us, and they were toxic and they made me toxic and we brought out the worst in each other, or whatever the problem was. Many times if we think, oh, this person would be better for me, or we go into a new relationship thinking that it's not going to be the same issue. If it's one of those core issues that's part of our tikkun healing in life, which is tikkun is like our soul correction. It's those soul contracts that we come here to work on. Then that relationship, once the honeymoon phase is over, it's like the same pattern will be there. Same with a job environment, right? Just because you switch a company, it doesn't mean that you won't have kind of those same patterns arise at that place too, right? Or, if you are going from one house or apartment to another apartment, there might be some issue that you have that follows you there, right? A pattern. Some people have like weird, random, mundane difficulties that seem to like follow them like in this like branded chaos, like car trouble, right? And it's not the car necessarily that's the issue. It doesn't mean that technically you didn't get a lemon, but you'll get another lemon if you don't go inward to see like why the universe is using the car problems to provoke you. Like, what is it provoking in you that you need to see? Is it some sort of level of stability in your life that you need to address to make your life more stable in that way? Is it something that brings up your impatience? Is it something that, brings up your temper? I know I personally have like a temper that comes out when I am feeling helpless and like I can't do anything and I'm I don't have any options or whatever. And so it's that feeling of being like the caged animal, like backed into a corner, and it's like that survival instinct comes out. But that's reactive behavior. And so many times life will use the buttons that it knows it can press in you so that you can see your reactive behavior so that you can address that in yourself. Otherwise, the buttons are still going to be pushed wherever you go. It doesn't matter. It's like a lot of times people want to, they have a pattern of like, I'm going to move to another city. That's my answer. It's the city that I'm in, and I'm going to start over, and I'm going to start fresh, and I'm going to, start with a new job and new friends and everything. And my thought in that is that unless you're going just because you love to like try new cities and new adventures and things, if you're running away from issues, like you're still going to be there in that city when you get there, right? The issues might follow you. So like look to your motives deeply and honestly, and evaluate those before you like uproot yourself. Worthiness. So this week, our self-worth is highlighted. Know that you deserve to receive good in all ways. So a lot of times, like to be magnetic, for instance, a lot of the work that is done is to target our self-worth and make decisions that come from a place of worthiness, of high self-worth, and to avoid putting yourself through things that are done because you have a sense of low self-worth, right? We can get ourselves into codependent situations if we have low self-worth. We think that we don't deserve better, or that we can't do better, or that, maybe I have had in the past romantic relationships that made me feel like I was just lucky to be there, right? And that came from a place of not having a sense of strong self-worth. And it's like, you don't really know until you know, right? If you have never been taught what self-worth is, or what self-love looks like, or how to love yourself, then you don't necessarily know that it's happening when it's happening. You're just like, yeah, I'm grateful. Like, I appreciate you, whatever. And it's easy to be made to feel like you can't have it any better, or no one will put up with this or that, right? And so it starts with a base level of self-acceptance. I know a few years ago, I had suddenly put on quite a lot of weight. And for me, throughout my life, body image and the whole diet culture that we were raised in, especially kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s and before that, for sure. I mean, it's so much better now with body acceptance and brands using all kinds of shapes and sizes. I was just looking at an ad today for a bathing suit company. And in the past, the model would have been considered a plus size model. And this was not for plus size bathing suits. And I was just really moved in a positive way that so many more shapes and sizes and looks are being celebrated and treated as normal, right? It's not like, oh, this is exalted and that is not, or this is so brave for doing this. It's just becoming normalized, which that's what we want, right? We want to get away from labels and having extreme thoughts about this or that because it hasn't been normal, right? We want to get to a place where it's just commonplace to see different sizes and different shapes and different looks. But while I was heavier than I am now, I had been through that up and down over and over again. And right before that, it's funny because a couple of years before I put on that weight, I had finally achieved my lifelong fitness goal. And it was my goal weight. I'd finally met it. I'd gone through those 20 and 30 pounds back and forth my whole life, ever since it was high school. You've got your high school body. But even then I had the dysmorphia that I couldn't see what I had when I had it, right? And so, after college and everything, going through the whole bad diets and partying through college, that was when I went back and forth, and my lymph node, or what is it, your thyroid. I had thyroid issues, and I had a sluggish thyroid, right? And so it was always a struggle with my energy levels. So I had this underlying perception that I wasn't acceptable if I was, a few pounds overweight, or if my clothes didn't look a certain way, and I would self-loathe. And I remembered finally getting to that goal weight and being so excited and so pleased and being so proud of myself. And then the little voice inside said, okay, now will you love yourself when you gain it all back? And I'm surprised I'm getting so emotional, but I knew that it was just a matter of time before I gained it all back. And I gained twice as much back. And I remembered when I realized that I literally felt like I was tight in my own skin, and I couldn't bend, and I couldn't reach to put on my shoes as comfortably, and it just didn't feel right. I didn't have the same mobility even, and it just felt like I was wearing a suit of heaviness that didn't belong to me. And I remembered thinking back at that voice then. You knew this was coming. You knew it would happen no matter what you did. And it wasn't because my diet changed. It was like a spontaneous thing. It was like I didn't change my habits necessarily. I always tried to be active. I always tried to be semi-conscious about what I was eating and eat, whole food. But it was such a struggle. And I felt so much of me inside wanted to feel like a failure because I had let myself down, because I'd worked so hard to get what I had achieved. And I had to learn to forgive myself and accept myself at that size. And if I never, got back down to what I felt like was my natural state again, could I learn to feel beautiful again? Even though I was taught by society and through, other feminine role models who had body issues as well that had passed those on to me. Even though I was taught I can't be loved like this, or I won't be loved like this, I had to learn to love myself anyway and find my beauty within that, because it goes deeper than skin deep. But even then, it was like I started to become proud of myself because I was able to feel attractive still. I was able to feel beautiful still, even at a size that traditionally I wouldn't have felt comfortable at. And what was interesting was when the relationship that I was in at the time ended, which was a toxic relationship that played on, it made my self-esteem struggle a lot. And when that relationship ended and I felt liberated and I felt empowered by the ending of that relationship, and I felt like it was the most positive thing that ever happened to me, and I was so excited because I loved myself and I knew I deserved better. It was as if the spell was broken and the curse was lifted, and I just stepped out of that whole extra layer that wasn't me, and in months I lost 50 pounds. And it wasn't that I changed my diet or my workout routine in any way. It just happened when the lesson clicked. And so it had everything to do with worthiness and self-love and feeling worthy of love and goodness, regardless of the way that society projected its ideas at me about that. So I don't know, I guess someone maybe needed to hear that. I know that we all, whether you're male or female, struggle with physical appearance, whether it be weight loss, weight gain, muscle loss, muscle gain, loose skin. That's an issue when you lose weight too, is that you have these issues that you didn't have before. I've struggled with hair loss, throughout my life. And so I know the feeling of wanting to have control over something that sometimes you just can't have control over, and the struggle of finding comfort in your own skin. whenever you find yourself and wherever you find yourself. So you're not alone in that even though whatever somebody looks like on the surface, you just never know what they've gone through, what they go through, or how they really feel about themselves inside. So know that you deserve to receive love in all ways, and that beauty comes from within. It comes from confidence. It comes from feeling comfortable with yourself. But even, as just like a surface level thing, I think that so many different shapes and sizes and looks are attractive and beautiful. And I think that people with more character are far more interesting to look at than people who maybe just look like that plastic version of perfect. And, I think I see people putting so many fillers in their face and then even doing their makeup in such ways that is like so unnatural. And in a way, sometimes it looks glamorous and fun, but like to feel like you have to alter yourself in extreme ways to be presentable, I think is like, it's a symptom of the sickness of our society rather than, our own shortcomings, in our own way that we perceive. It's like it's really been drilled into people, and to the degree that it's like going to extremes, and so many people are having to spend so much money to maintain the outer shell. And it's like so many people are thinking, well, if my lips were just a little bit more plump, maybe I would be satisfied with myself then. And then they do it, and it's like they lose that natural like cuteness they already had. Do you guys remember when Jennifer Grey, the actress, got the nose job? And I remembered thinking like, yeah, she's beautiful, but I loved Baby Houseman and her little nose. Like, it was like she totally kind of like looked completely different after that. And so many times it's someone's little flaw that makes them so cute. Like when someone has a little gap in their tooth, or, I think like many men who were born with a cleft palate and they have a scar on their face, it makes them look rugged and sexy. And so I think just finding your character and appreciating it, and appreciating where your features came from and that they're unique and different. We don't have to all look the same. And I don't know why, so many times in our manifestation message, it's all about like our goals, like what do we want to do for a living, and what are we trying to do in our career, or our, creative projects, or getting this thing launched or that thing launched. But so many people have, physical goals as well, and they want to manifest, self-love and self-worth and feel like they have achieved something as far as like the way they want to appear. So I think that's worth talking about as well. Self-forgiveness. Let go of old guilt and remember that you're God's perfect child, right? And so we all make mistakes. We all slip up. And even when you try to be a good person, and that you're flawed, right? I have a temper, and I know I have a temper, and I work on it. And even then, sometimes it still slips. And I mess up, and I could run myself into the ground about it, but it's only going to make that worse, and it's going to take a toll on your self-worth. So it's about self-forgiveness and forgiveness of the past and forgiveness of your former sins against yourself and against others, right? In The Chosen, there was a scene where Mary Magdalene was talking to Tamar, the Gentile woman that joined their crew. And the Gentile, like many of the other Gentiles, just took so easily to the faith. It was like, wow, this is great. I love this. And, when she met Christ, there was a miracle where Tamar got her friend who was a paralytic in front of Christ, and he told him to rise up and walk. And then he looked at her and he was like, your faith is beautiful. And so Mary and her were in a tiff, and Mary kind of came out with it. She was like, look, when you met Christ, like when you met Jesus, he was like, your faith is beautiful. But when I met him, I was drunk in a bar, like full of demons and possessed. And you know, and I know the mistakes that I made in the past and all this stuff, but it's different for you than it is for me. And Tamar was like, Jesus forgave you of all of that, but you have to forgive yourself. You have to let it go because you're the one still carrying it, because no, like he's not, right? So it was such a good message. It's like we're forgiven. Like when we ask for that forgiveness and we repent and we change our life, like, and we make an effort to change our ways, it's like we're the ones that kind of keep carrying it with us, and that guilt can hold us down, and it can put a dark cloud over us when we can change. Every day is a new chance to do better. Every hour is a chance to do better, right? That's what they tell you, you know, in 12-step programs. It's like, hey, can you just get through today, one day at a time, right? And that means don't look back at the past, because that will weigh you down and it'll make you feel despair. Looking at the future will leave you feeling overwhelmed. And that will kind of make you feel anxious and in a way sometimes hopeless, you know, without seeing like, okay, I'm looking into darkness and uncertainty and I don't see a way out here. That can make you feel hopeless. But if you can stay present in the day, do what you can in that day and take inspired action and turn inward for guidance and try to bring peace to yourself, then you have the manna for the day. The thing that I took away from the idea of the Israelites being told, you will have manna rain down from heaven, which was like this food the angels provided for them. And it will appear on the ground in the morning, and you will gather only enough for the day. It is a constant choice and exercise to try to take one day at a time, to not worry about the future and to not be obsessed and clinging to the past, but just to be in the day. Your needs will be met today, and knowing and certainty in the Creator that even though it's a mystery, even though it seems like it's just falling out of the sky sometimes, that you will be taken care of. You will be led. You will be led one step at a time. The Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, right? The wilderness is like, oh my gosh, no structure, no security, no stability, right? No farm, no livestock. You're just like moving and there's no real roots, right? When they were moving through the wilderness, they were guided by a pillar of fire at night and a cloud of smoke during the day. And those pillars would stay while they were encamped. And when it was time to move, they started moving, and they were like, oh, the cloud is moving. We need to get our stuff together. But they would only get themselves in trouble when they would try to neurotically force the situation or come up with a plan or think that they knew better than the smoke cloud that was the divine guidance from God leading them, right? How many times do we, even doubt when we're like, can I have a sign? And the sign is like, boom, here it is. And you're like, I mean, that's probably just a coincidence. Can I get another sign? It's like, there's the other sign, right? Before you know it, the opponent starts coming in and confusing you with the signs. Follow that inner quiet, gentle voice that's compassionate, but that's leading you into a positive direction that feels peaceful, that feels solid, that feels like you're not in a panic. You're not doing something out of reactivity. But self-forgiveness is what's called for. And so that can lift such a weight off of us, right? When we just get ourselves out of the way and we stop beating ourselves up, right? We can have that from the world, right? The world is already hard enough. Try not to beat yourself up. Simplify your life. When you're looking at, is this guidance coming from the light or is it coming from the opponent? The way that we can tell, and this is one of my favorite lessons that I've learned in Kabbalah, and it's one of the ones that I need to remind myself of more often, is that the light is simple. The light makes it simple. It's not a complex this or, well, this is a kind of complicated situation, right? It's complicated. Perfect example. If you have to put in your relationship status, it's complicated, then it is the opponent, right? Single, light. Very, very simple, right? Straightforward. You know that for sure if you're single. If you're in a relationship, again, simple. It's, you know where you stand, but it's complicated from the opponent. That will waste your time. It'll waste your energy. It'll waste your life force. So simplify your life. Eliminate clutter from your home and work life to balance the flow of activities. So many times when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, we want to take an action because we're feeling like affect consciousness. We're feeling panicked. We're feeling those animal instincts. I've got to do something. I've got to, make my this or that. I've got to, bear fruit. I've got to hunt. And if we go at anything from a state of desperation or feeling panic, then that perpetuates more chaos and negativity. So sometimes before we take action, the better thing to do would just be to do something that eliminates the chaos, right? Sometimes that's deep cleaning the house, right? It's a nice action that you can take that not only clears your space, but it clears your mind so that you can calm down and create order around you. And when you're doing like a task like cleaning or gardening or taking a walk, doing something that gets you moving, that gets part of your brain pacified but not too involved, it allows for the subconscious to come up. And that's when you will be able to process your thoughts. You can think something through. You can, if you're upset about something, it's like you can kind of work it through as you're doing the work and let the emotions run their course and get your head clear and get grounded again. Doing this with your environment, like clearing your environment and clearing the clutter, it gets the energy flowing, it gets the energy moving, and it makes you feel differently. It takes things off your mind. When you're overly stimulated, it wears down your willpower and it prevents you from being able to make clear judgment calls. That's why the president has someone choose their clothes every day. That's why they have someone who plans their menus for them. They're not making those million choices every day that just start to wear down our motivation and our willpower, right? Because they need their full chemical bank to direct towards world issues that affect, people on a grand scale. So they can't spend their energy on the daily minutia. And they have that dialed in for a reason, because it's scientifically proven that your brain chemistry just starts depleting. You can fill it up when you sleep, which that's why deep sleep is so important. But then the moment you wake up, it's like you're inundated with choices and options and stimulus. And it's sort of just like, kind of like wears you down and it tires you out. And so by the end of the day, you're spent, right? So take that into consideration. Simplify your life, but also as you're weighing out decisions or you're weighing out whether or not your guidance or the signs are being coming from the opposing side or the light, because the opposing side knows what you want too, and it can mess with you. It can send you little booby traps and tricks and play with your mind. So remember, the opponent makes things complicated. It makes things complex, whereas the light is simple. The light simplifies. All right, let's get one more card. Stay optimistic. Your dreams are coming true. Don't quit right before the miracle occurs. So again, don't do anything in a panic. Just stay optimistic. So many times right before a really great thing comes through, it's like it seems like a shitstorm hits. And on the cosmic scale, the thing that purifies or transmutes our density to light if it's not our proactive effort, many times chaos or like judgment, we'll call it judgment will occur in your life in order to give you a quick cleanse, right? And if we can accept the judgment with an open heart and with positivity and try to receive it, like say life sends you maybe some unfortunate events that happen, like, oh man, I got a parking ticket, or, you know, like in back to back, like, or you have like a sudden like cold that comes on, or you hurt yourself, not on purpose, but like say you have an accident. It doesn't work if you do this on purpose, but if it's unprompted and you're like, oh my gosh, I burnt my hand, I got a ticket, you know, it's just like little things like that just keep seeming to add up. If you can stay in a positive mindset and realize that this is probably working off some of your like density debt, like your spiritual debt, so that you can actually have a blessing come in, right? It's like getting a little slap on the hand from the universe. It's not punishing, but what it's doing is it's putting you through this heat and this pressure and the cleansing fire, right? In order to reveal more of your light. But if you can't get yourself in that right state of mind, then you might be adding more chaos onto your scale. So if you can catch yourself, then try to, like, if you're having like a series of like bad luck, try to be appreciative of it and try to adopt the mindset that you're being cleansed, like your credit card debt, your spiritual credit card debt interest is being paid off for you. All right, think of it that way. Stay optimistic. Your dreams are coming true. Don't quit right before the miracle happens. So again, you know, many times when we're called to a certain purpose or a certain dream, it doesn't mean that thing is going to come without challenge. We're still going to be challenged in that area. And so if we can power through those challenges and stay optimistic, many times when the heat turns up, that's a good sign that miracles are very close, that you could be very close to a breakthrough, and that this could be the heat that you need to push the needle over the edge. So stay hopeful, stay optimistic, focus on feeling worthy. Focus on self-love. You know, even if you don't think that particular aspect is related to the thing that you're focused on, it's all interconnected. So, you know, if you have like shame around money, but you feel like confident about body issues, that shame like might still be lingering around when you're trying to call in love and money. Right? Doesn't matter which thing it's related to, because they're all kind of connected. So if you feel like, oh, my money's great, I love my career, like I have such a great career, but like you have like, you know, some problems going on in your relationship, like it's all connected to the self-worth, right? And so we've been doing so much healing recently, centered around like healing the relationships with our parents and our perception of our parents, and trying to choose to feel their love. Even though our parents are flawed people, we're all assigned these parents on purpose as part of our soul's contract when we come to earth. And so again, our parents are given to us so that they will put certain triggers in us, and so that they can push those buttons, and that we can rise above that and become stronger for it. And we can find that forgiveness. It's all mysterious and it's all complex. But if we can choose to understand that everyone is doing the best that they can, or choose to believe that, choose to see the best in people, it doesn't mean that you have to open up your boundaries and be totally open and trusting with every single person, or let them back in if they're not behaving well. But we can choose to let go of the hard feelings and choose to move towards forgiveness for others and self. That will help the worthiness. That will take the weight off that keeps us kind of weighed down by that like grief inside and the anger inside. In the meantime, try to keep it simple. Simplify your life, simplify your things to do, things you are working on. Literally simplify your surroundings, declutter. Also, take some of the clutter out of your mind. Maybe take a piece of paper and draw a line in it, and it's better if it's a physical piece of paper, and say, okay, on this side of the paper are things that I know I have to do myself. But this side is a list of tasks that I'm going to assign the universe to do for me. And maybe that will work out where I don't have to take on those things, or at least not yet. I'm going to do these things first. And in the meantime, I'm going to give these to the universe to take care of. And so many times it's like, I'll put like, oh, I need to call about this thing, or I need to do that. Like literally, you guys, I needed to call the water company because the water main outside was like flooding under the metal thing in the ground. And my maintenance guy was like, you need to call the water company and like tell them about that. I'm like, I have got so many things to do. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to let the universe take care of that, and I'll get to it when I get to it. And randomly the water company came by and they started looking in there and they discovered the problem. And I went out and talked to the guys, and I was like, oh, I was going to have to call about this. And they were like, yeah, we see it. We'll take care of it. And then they came back and I'm assuming they took care of it because they had their little truck with the little lights on it and all that. And they were in there working on it. So that's how it can happen sometimes. So simplify your life and stay optimistic, right? That's the thing that keeps us in that high vibrational state. Literally try to put yourself in the mindset as if it's already a done deal. Like you're already used to this kind of thing. It's like, oh, I love having 1 million views on my video, but like I'm used to this by now because, you know, I went viral a long time ago. Don't try to look past the lack and just live in a state of delusion as though it's already like your mundane life. Like I already live in my practical Magick mansion, and I love my view of the cliffside looking over the water with my rose garden and my greenhouse. I'm already bored with it. Oh, so many rooms to clean. Oh, the dauntingness of it all. Y'all get the vibe. All right, let me know in the comments what you think. What are you working with right now? What are you overcoming? Is there anything that you resonated with particularly? Or is there anything that you guys would like more insight on? If you have any specific questions that you want me to do a video about, let me know. I don't always have to, I'll probably stick with our regularly scheduled programming, but I'm always open to do additional videos whenever I can find the time to squeeze them in. So let me know if there's some area of interest you'd like for me to go more into. All right, in the meantime, subscribe to my channel, you guys. I got past 800 subscribers today. Yay! We're on our way to that 1,000 subscribers. Definitely not stopping at 1,000, but you need at least 1,000 to get your channel monetized. And 4,000 watch hours in any given 365-day period. So if you guys are, say, going and running errands or something, you could always just start one of my playlists and just push play and leave the house and just let it run. I wouldn't hate you for that. You don't actually have to watch them. They just have to play to help me out. And I just have this theory that once the channel gets bigger, the algorithm will show it to more people. But I'm in that weird area now where it doesn't quite know what to do with me at this point. I think I've got people that tune in, but I think that they want to stay anonymous. So just so you know, YouTube is one of the more anonymous platforms. It's like, unless someone's really commenting, it doesn't really show like who's doing what and where. And I know that like sometimes people are not necessarily, they might feel awkward or embarrassed that they are watching like spiritual videos or tarot videos. I come from like the Bible Belt, so a lot of people watch my content and they don't know that I can see specifically like who's watching, and they never react, and I think they're afraid that their loved ones will give them heat. And I think that's where they're coming from ultimately. And so YouTube is very anonymous. You don't see who's doing what unless you're like commenting on videos. And it's such a big platform that like literally, what are the odds that someone would see your comment and be like, oh, I saw you comment on that YouTube video? It's not gonna happen. So you're safe here. All right, y'all, take care. I'll see y'all tomorrow for our midweek alchemy message, where we take a look at our lessons for the week and we unpack those. And our anchor message is the messages that I put out, the videos that say like tarot and oracle readings on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those messages actually I post to Instagram first in the form of a written post and a photo. So if you guys want those earlier than when you're receiving them, which is probably like early Tuesday mornings, I usually do the videos when I come home from work, you can see those on Instagram midday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can follow me there at Liz_Taylor_Magick. And after like, I don't know, 10 years on Instagram of doing this, I finally hit 1,000 subscribers there. 1,000 followers. So yeah, give me a hand, y'all. Help a girl out. I've been here consistent for so long. Do I suck? Are these videos awful? Like, is it just like boring? Is the material not helpful? Like, I'm willing to take feedback, but sometimes I think it's because my content is more oriented in the direction of soul progression rather than the sensationalism of like, I don't know who's effing who this week and who's talking about you and who's backstabbing. Like, so many tarot channels are very like soap opera-y that way, and I've never really gone in that direction. For me, it's more about like our progression as souls and going forward towards the light rather than getting in the nitty-gritty of like telling you to do what to do with your life or like in your mundane world. Like, you know, I think people need to make their own choices and their own decisions, but also, you know, respect other people's free will, and everything like our future is really being made based on the quality of our choices in the day. And so I think that being able to condition ourselves from the inside out, that's what's going to be life-changing, not having like some insight as to like a chess move of how you can like, I don't know, maneuver through your day. I think that it's more about like changing our consciousness and how we perceive the world, and that helps. And it's not that I don't like some of those channels too for a little bit of entertainment, and I'm not dogging anybody, but I know that's kind of gets those channels a lot more popular. I know that people are really addicted to like twin flame. And so I think a lot of channels play on that. And I don't really want to exploit people's addictions and send them in cycles of obsessing over relationships that aren't going anywhere. I think it's better to focus on things that grow us and heal us. And again, I'm not dogging on that either, but that's just not where, like, it's not kind of where I wanted to aim this channel. It's not really the purpose of it. But if y'all have any feedback of like, I don't know, what might be stalling the channel, what might be thwarting the channel, what you'd like to see from the channel, I'm always open to your suggestions. Ciao. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, then please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to be notified of when I drop content. Like the videos, comment, share them. Anything that you do helps these messages get out to other people who need them. So you watching a video and taking an action on it actually makes a positive difference in someone else's life.